Hi, I'm Tree and this is Stitchless TV, and today, do you remember in the Kempton on location Kempton Antiques Market, we bought this old kind of granddad Harris tweed jacket. I can't remember how much it cost. Was it 30 quid? Was it 30 quid, Esther?
I can't remember.
I'm sure it was about 30 quid, which is actually quite expensive. I'm sure you can get it for about a tenner in a charity shop. Well, today we're going to completely revamp it. What we're going to do, we're going to put elbow pads on the elbows, and I've got this material, and I don't know if you remember, I had a big fight with Shaz, my sister, about that, but she gave me this teeny weeny little piece, oh generous. And what we're going to do, we're going to put Bonder web on the back, and then we're going to apply it to the back of the jacket, and these are going to be our elbow pads. I bought this from the Designers Guild sale, and they have like a beautiful remnant box with bargain remnants in it. So I'm going to use that on the elbows, and then I've got this little belt that's going to go at the bottom. So we bond everything on first, and then we stitch it around the edge. Right. Do you know what this stuff is? You know you've used Bonder web and you've used it for the bottom of your curtains and it's usually about that wide. Well, do you know what? You can get it this wide. Look how wide it is. It's a metre wide, and I can't tell you how fantastic this stuff is. You can use it for bonding the elbow pads on. You could do a beautiful collage on the back of your jacket. But today we are using it. We're going to cut circles out like this out of the Bonder web. And this belt, we're going to lay that down and we're going to cut it out, and we're going to use it for that floral fabric that I got from Kempton Antiques Market. So this brilliant Bonder web, look, it has paper on one side, and then on top of it, it's got like a really thin layer of the glue, and the glue is so thin that when you do apply heat to it and you bond it to your actual garment or fabric, it's hardly there. So it's pretty non-invasive really. So I've got them all cut out, and what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the iron. We're going to go to the iron now, and we're just going to press it. Now they say don't use steam. They say use a really hot iron, but don't use steam. But do you know what? I find it works much better with steam. I've got the floral fabric. Now come here, listen to me. Do not stick it to the right side, okay? Because there's no getting it off. So if you've got that really gorgeous old cushion from your grandmother or some really rare vintage fabric, it will be a disaster. So glue onto wrong side. So I've got it on the wrong side like that. Off we go. Steam, steam, steam. I've pressed both sides. Okay, and now I'm going to cut out this pattern. Now what's really important is you don't cut it too close. Look, I'm leaving about 2 mils. And now in that well that we've created there, look, so we've created a little well of colour. It's going to be in there that we're going to sew, and it gives us a little bit of room for mistakes and stuff. We've got like basically a 2 mil area for huge mistakes. See, look, I'm sort of moving this around to go around all the corners here, like that. Right, so you should end up with, ta-da! It looks really good, doesn't it? It looks fantastic, just like this. Now I've got to figure out which is the right way up. Do you think that's the right way up? I kind of think it does. You sort of look at the shadow, but it's not the end of the world. And basically, come and look over here. That beautiful masterpiece, look at it, it looks like an oil painting. It's going to be bonded onto the back there. So we've got the jacket, here's the jacket on the ironing board. You've got to centralise this on the middle, unless you want it to be like an asymmetric thing on one side or something. But I'm going to try and centralise mine. So I'm bearing in mind where the seam is, the centre seam of the jacket, and then you've got to press it on. But do you know what? You've got to take the paper off or it's not going to glue, is it? So peel, look how beautiful that is. So look, it just peels off. This is the back, and it's got all the glue on there, ready to go. So very serious moment. If you bond this now upside down, in the wrong position or anything, I'm sorry, but you've ruined your granddad's jacket or your special vintage jacket, and that's it. So let's see, get it in the middle like that. This is it, everybody. Let's go for it. This is final. So again, I'm using steam and very, very hot iron. Steam and very hot iron. Now, my ironing board isn't really big enough to take up the whole of the motif that I'm putting on here. So I'm going to focus on the bits that I can get on first. Lots of heat and lots of steam. This is what we've got so far. It's fantastic, isn't it, like this? Now, the brilliant thing about the fabric that I've used, I know that when I stitch in this little well here, going all around, this fabric is going to fray beautifully, which is going to give it even more depth. It will be brilliant. But before we do that, don't forget, we've got to put these elbow pads on. Now, what I'd say about putting the elbow pads on, you do need to try on the jacket and get a piece of chalk and make a little mark where your elbow is, because there were so many times when I've added elbow patches there, like down here by my wrist or right up here by my shoulders, and I quite like them to be where they're supposed to be today. So I'm going to put a little mark there with some chalk, which I don't have at the moment, but I'll find in a minute. We've got this, that's as far as we've got. We've got our elbow pads and we've got that on, the motif on the back pad. And now we're going to add the belt. Now, I think that the belt should go, for me, I mean, you're going to have like all sorts of things that you're putting your stuff on, but for me, I've got these two vents here, so you know, so that the story, you know, it all ties in properly. It needs to be in line with something. So let me see, how low is that? So I'm going to put the belt about there, so it's in line with those vents. And again, steam. How are we going to start stitching it? Because we've got lining in there, haven't we? We won't always have lining, but we have lining in this. And we don't want to stitch through the lining as well, because that would just be a nightmare. We want a professional job. So what we have to do is we go on the other side and we need access. So I've created some access in here just by opening up the seam. I'm in, and I'm keeping track of that lining. I keep like sort of feeling and touching underneath just to make sure that it's completely out of the way. You'll be amazed at how much you can actually do through that little hole, but you'll get to a point where it gets tricky on the other side and you probably will have to stop and go back again to the beginning. So do you remember that well? We got a straight stitch about number 3-ish. It's kind of handy if you have a fairly big stitch for this. So I'm stitching in that well of colour. I don't know if that's the correct term for it. 2mm well of colour. And as I go along, oh, I do have another tip actually. Make sure your foot pressure is well up. 5, 4. Such a relief to finish it, I've got to say. But look, it is so worth it. Come down and have a look, right? See all of these nice bits here? Over time, they're going to fray really, really nicely. And put little bits all over my jacket. No, they'll fray really nicely, and it will give it even more depth. Now I'm going to stitch this, and you just do it in exactly the same way as the way you did that, so it'll be 100 times easier because it's tiny. This applies to any sort of narrow tubular thing that you're trying to stitch something onto. So it could be the leg of a pair of trousers. It's not just an arm. It really is a handy tip to open up a seam so you get as much movement as possible in there, and then you can just do whatever you want and then just stitch the seam up afterwards. Really, it just makes life easier. So, shall I put it on and see what it looks like?
Yeah.
Now, it's enormous for me, but I kind of like it like that. I think it's a bit funny. So I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to have a look in the mirror before you have a look at the back. Oh, look at that. Look, see, look, my elbow pads are up there, but look, if they're like that, then that's fine. Look at that.